So in studio, team news just in. Richie will bring that to you in a moment. We will have John O'Shea on the football show. He announced his retirement from football this week. We have Wednesday Night Rugby with Keith Wood and Liam Toland. And 25 years on, we remember Ayrton Senna, the anniversary of his death at Imola today. John Watson will join us, who raced against Senna and was on commentary on that day back in 1994. Text number 53106. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Aforementioned Kenny Cunningham, hello.
Yeah, sorry, just
very
I was away with it. Yeah, I'm just that Liverpool team sheet. I'm just kind of can't get away from it.
Hi, Kenny. Just say hi.
Yeah, oh, evening.
Yeah. It's just certain radio bits and bobs we're going to have to do here. We're on it.
Sorry, Joe. I'm miles away. I was miles away.
You breathe. Kenny's in shock with the Liverpool team. We'll bring that to you in a moment. Richie also here. Hello.
How are you, Joe?
We should start with the other still breaking news to a point.
Very
Lots of people won't know. This has just come from Punchestown.
In the last 20 minutes or so, Ruby Walsh has announced his retirement from racing with immediate effect. The 39-year-old jockey broke the news straight after guiding the Willie Mullins-trained Kemboy to victory in the Punchestown Gold Cup, the feature on day 2 of the Punchestown Festival. Walsh, of course, a 12-time Irish champion jockey. He rode 59 winners at the Cheltenham Festival and won the Aintree Grand National on no less than 3 separate occasions. That partnership with Mullins is, of course, fabled, and the trainer gave his immediate reaction after finding out the news in the winner's enclosure.
Ruby just got off. He said, "Can you find something for a little old laugh?" He said, and I thought, I looked at him. I said, "Is he lame? Is he got concussed, or is he dehydrated?" And then he said, "I'm out of here." He said, and the penny dropped. So I called him back then and just shook his hand. And what more can you say? There'll be plenty more time for all that.
Okay, so even Willie Mullins did
Caught off guard. Find somebody for the next race. I'm out of here. Quite incredible. Ted Welch on RT Racing was obviously in tears after the news broke as well, and they had a little chat up there in the box with Robert Hall, and he seemed very at peace with the decision. There is a sense that this has been coming. I know in the lead up to the festival there'd been talk perhaps that he was going to retire at some point in the near future. I don't think anybody was expecting the immediacy of all this, but seeing him interviewed and seeing him talk this evening, he seems okay that he's stepping away. It's been 24 years in the saddle for him. He's 39. He says he wants another 25, 30 years, maybe even more, of doing something else. And he's absolutely entitled to do that after the career he's just had, which is, the numbers alone are just staggering. The horses he's rode tells its own tale as well. I mean, the man is a legend.
He is a legend, one of Ireland's greatest sports people. So I wonder, did he ride Kemboy to the Punchestown Gold Cup and almost think, I'm going in the next few days.
This is a good place to end it.
Maybe I'll pull the plug right now.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to find out in the next few days when he's on. We obviously dropped him a text to come on the show. I suspect his phone's busy just now.
It's probably lighting up and will do for a while. I hope he's got it charged.
So Ruby Mullins retiring.
Ruby Walsh, yeah.
Ruby Walsh retiring with immediate effect is the breaking news from Punchestown. He rode Kemboy to the Punchestown Gold Cup, and then he said, "That's that." Do you mind not coughing that loudly when we're on the radio?
We're in a pretty special moment there, Kenny.
Actually, no need to.
I was trying to hold it. I just couldn't.
I know you didn't. I know you think these retirement announcements are a bit much, but you know,
genuinely no need to cough that loudly.
Yeah, it's been a few actually. You're right.
Yes, but some people are kind of deserving of the retirement announcements.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Others aren't.
If Ruby Walsh comes through at any stage this evening, we will interrupt proceedings and put him on. Just an extraordinary career. Can't overstate it, what he's done in the world of racing. So that's the breaking news from Punchestown. Meanwhile, you've got team news for us, Rich?
Yeah, I do indeed. We'll get to the team news as regards the stats surrounding tonight's game. As Kenny mentioned, the Liverpool lineup somewhat interesting. Alisson starts in goal, as we know. Joe Gomez returns at right back, with Trent Alexander-Arnold relegation to the bench. The rest of the back four then, as expected, with Joel Matip partnering Virgil van Dijk in the centre. Andrew Robertson is on the left. Then in midfield, we have James Milner, Fabinho and Naby Keita. The thought then is we'll have Jorginho Wijnaldum just ahead of them, with Mo Salah and Sadio Mane leading the line. Roberto Firmino is on the bench tonight. For Barca, Marc-Andre ter Stegen starts in goal. They've got a back four of Sergio Roberto, Clement Longley, Gerard Piqué and Jordi Alba. In midfield then, Sergio Busquets, Ivan Rakitic, Arturo Vidal and the former Liverpool man Philippe Coutinho. Another former Liverpool man in Luis Suarez partners Lionel Messi up front. Liverpool have never lost at the Camp Nou, but Barcelona have never lost on their last 31 home games in the Champions League, Joe. But something tonight is going to have to give and kick off. Is it 8?
I'm just watching here the footage of Walsh on his last ride, Kemboy, this afternoon, and as he crosses the line and in the moments afterwards, there is nothing on his face to suggest this is any way different to any of his other winners. Maybe he's only starting to think about it, like he's all smiles here, he's looking around and he says something to the horse and there's no emotion, there are no tears, there was no sense of the announcement coming. A few other riders over to shake his hand, as would be normal when you've won the Punchestown Gold Cup, but I'd be really interested if he did just decide in those few quiet moments, do you know what, it won't get much better than this over the next few days. Let's go here.
Like, you don't want to, like, with all due respect, like, you'd rather go here than, you know, in his home county as well, than going after the, you know, 320 at Lingfield.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit of a damp squib to just go, right, go on my old terms. I've just won another Grade 1.
Yeah.
Good luck, goodbye.
And it's on TV and his dad's in the box.
It's picture book stuff.
Yeah. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. God. Ruby Walsh, you're going to miss him. I mean, I know, it's just
perennial name, like
compelling
it's one of those,
character as well.
It's one of those names that's just always associated with the sport. The tandem of Walsh and Mullins is something that we've just gotten used to rolling off our tongue so much so that you've combined them together as one person tonight. But that is testament to how well they've worked together.
Stop anyone in the street, say name a jockey.
Ruby.
Pretty much.
And you know,
pretty much.
If there is one sour note to this, it does mean that the Kaiser Chiefs are going to have an increase in their royalties over the next few days. Not from here though, if I have anything to do with it.
Well, we'll see.
No, we won't.
We might be obliged.
No, we won't.
Right, so Kenny, rejoin us in the world here. You're looking at Milner.
You're back in the room.
Milner, Fabinho and Keita with Jordan Henderson on the bench. Firmino's on the bench as well, given his injury situation. Wijnaldum, Mane and Salah. What formation is that actually going to be?
Well, I couldn't see Liverpool playing anything but a 4-3-3 formation. It's predominantly what we've got used to Liverpool playing under Klopp the past couple of years. Very rarely, if ever, deviate from that. So I'm looking at a 4-3-3 formation. I'm struggling to square pegs into round holes, because you can see a midfield three of Milner, Fabinho and Keita as per usual, but then Wijnaldum has to play wide of a three up front. You can really see that when you drop Wijnaldum back into a midfield three where he's more comfortable and has played all season. Then you're asking Keita to play up front wide of a three. That isn't ideal. So in a 4-3-3, it looks really unbalanced. You've suggested.
Can you see it there being Milner, Milner, Fabinho, and Wijnaldum on the left of basically that trio, and then Keita dropping in behind Salah and Mane up front?
Yeah, Keita. I could see maybe Wijnaldum playing as like a diamond.
But either or.
Then a diamond. Yeah. You know, Wijnaldum at the top of the diamond. Yeah. I don't remember Liverpool ever playing a diamond. It's such a big game. When you're so used to, everybody's used to this system, same as their positions, where they're expected to be in and out possession of the ball, the press, how we started. That all comes from that regimented 4-3-3 system that's been ingrained, put into place by Klopp weeks, months,
But
years.
it has been altered this year a little bit. Like they've changed the emphasis of it. Hasn't necessarily been a flat 4-3-3. I think they've gone with mostly Salah up front on his own, essentially, that notionally, and then having the other two lads slightly more withdrawn.
No, it's a 4-3-3. It's a 4-3-3 with that narrow, that kind of V-shaped midfield. Henderson predominantly was the holding one. He's playing in a more advanced position. Fabinho's coming there. Even Milner ahead of Henderson. I mean, Henderson's energy, his ability to go box to box tonight, to give Liverpool the advantage in that central midfield area. I mean, Barcelona can be a little bit one-paced in there. Interesting, Vidal's come in, didn't see that one. Maybe to give them more of a physical presence in there. But I felt Liverpool could really have the edge in there with Henderson's legs, Keita's legs in there, their running power.
It was
so really not odd decision. Milner's had a good season.
It was said by several people that Liverpool improved when Henderson went off away to Munich.
Not for me. They're a better team when he's in it. Okay. So that's my opinion. Even the Gomez one at right back for me, I'd like to see Gomez in the team. I know he hasn't had a lot of match fitness, but at centre half alongside Van Dijk and Alexander-Arnold remaining in the team at right back. People have made the argument, up against Coutinho 1v1, but Coutinho's not going to play as a left winger. He's going to play on the inside. He's going to have to deal with Jordi Alba most, so he can do with that. And not just that, when he gets on the ball, he gives Liverpool a whole new dimension, as done Robertson in the opposite half of the pitch. His assists this year has been extraordinary, and Robertson. So you're taking that weapon away from Liverpool. It's not all about how you defend, how they're going to get on the ball and impose themselves against this Barcelona team. And he's been a big factor this season, him and Robertson in those advanced full-back positions. He's kind of taken that away from the team by putting Gomez out there, as good a defender as Gomez is.
We'll preview from 7:30 with Graham Hunter as well, who will give us the Barcelona side of things. Meanwhile,
there has been a sour note to the build-up to tonight's game, with Liverpool Chief Executive Peter Moore calling on the club's fans to act with grace and humility in the Catalan city. Merseyside police working with the club to identify the people involved in 2 incidents of individuals being shoved into fountains in Barcelona. Moore says such behaviour is totally unacceptable and will not be tolerated. On to matters elsewhere. Castor Semenya is considering appealing a landmark ruling on testosterone regulations. The 2-time Olympic 800-metre champion has seen her challenge of the IAAF's rules rejected by the Court of Arbitration for Sport today. In a statement, though, Semenya says, "I know that the IAAF's regulations have always targeted me specifically. For a decade, the IAAF has tried to slow me down, but this has actually made me stronger. The decision of the Court of Arbitration for Sport will not hold me back. I will once again rise above and continue to inspire young women and athletes in South Africa and around the world." CAS General Secretary Matthew Reeb explained some of the reasons behind their decision.
Panel found that the DSD regulations are discriminatory, but the majority of the panel found that on the basis of the evidence submitted by the parties in the procedure, such discrimination is a necessary, reasonable and proportionate means of achieving the IAAF's objective of preserving the integrity of female athletics in some track events of international competitions, that is from 400 meter to 1 mile. However, in its award of 165 pages, the CAS panel expressed some serious concerns as to the future practical application of these DSD regulations.
Yeah, it's incredibly complicated. We've done pieces on this with Ross Tucker and others. We'll come back to it again and revisit it. Interestingly, Ross Tucker, when he was on the last time, made the observation that this issue is not going to be as big an issue as we all fear going forward, because hyperandrogenism increasingly will be treated at birth.
Yeah.
So people are saying today, oh, this is just, this thing, this isn't going away and it's going to be worse and worse. Ross Tucker was of the opinion that the more prevalent issue that sport's going to have to deal with going forward will revolve around transgender athletes and how they fit in, but less so hyperandrogenism.
I think Ross made that point on Twitter today. I know he's saying that he's going to go into it in further detail himself in the coming days, that they're basically setting the table for them having to deal with the issue of transgender athletes down the road.
Okay.
But the very fact that they come out, and you heard from Matthew Reeb in that statement there, they've used the term, they know that these rules are discriminatory, but they have to go along with them to protect the sport, is just seems ludicrous on the face of it.
Yeah. We'll come back to that, no doubt. Somebody, Sean Mead says, I think Ruby did give a goodbye wave to the stand when he crossed the line, not like his usual victory salute. Oh, he may well have, Sean. He may well have. I was looking off, I think I was working off, there was the RTE Twitter feed. They showed a video of it, so I didn't see it in that, but he may well have. In truth, Kenny and I were in recording a John O'Shea interview just around the time the news happened. So we were suddenly doing a John O'Shea retirement interview and then walked out and someone said, Ruby Walsh is retired too. Like, is there no one? Is there no one, Kenny? Ruby Walsh, he is without question the greatest jockey of all time tweets going on right now. That's what we're talking about here, Kenny. The Messi,
I'm not a huge
Messi of the racing world.
Race follower, obviously, so I wouldn't be able to make a huge contribution. Obviously, I'm aware of the name. It's a huge name. So I'll be taking a back seat and listen to other people's opinions. Yeah, same. I'm in the same boat. But greatest of all time territory is what we're talking about. So I'd be thinking growing up, because obviously Leicester, it was the little, they're all little, aren't they?
Willie Carson.
Oh, the small one.
No.
Willie Carson.
Willie Carson, yeah, Willie Carson would have been a couple of them. John Joe, he'd done the Channel 4 racing.
John Frankham,
those type of, they were the kind of high profile in the day. But you're saying...
I think he's different level. Like AP McCoy for all the champion, was it 20 champion jockeys?
Champion jockeys, something like that,
yeah. Like AP McCoy's in the conversation, but...
59 Cheltenham winners, Joe. 59. That's just baffling. Like, absolutely baffling that you can have that many over the course of a 24
hours. How would he diverge in terms of riding ability? I understand in terms of what he's actually won. We're going away from it in terms of what he's actually won, in terms of the technicalities of a rider, what he had, as opposed to what was superior to other athletic or just technically in terms of riding the actual...
Well, you're talking to people here who are not experts either, in fairness. But just listening to people who really know their stuff. I mean, nobody could pace a horse better than Ruby. He was exceptional.
His intuition
judging the pace of a race and matching it to his horse.
So, wherever
Ruby was in the field, that was a good indicator of where it was a good place to be. Whether you thought they were going too fast or too slow, keeping an eye on Ruby wasn't the worst thing. So he was exceptionally good at that. And then his longevity. Like people said, AP McCoy won all those champion jockeys because he'd go to every race. Like he'd drive up to Newcastle to ride just the 410 day after day after day, and that's incredibly admirable. But there was an argument maybe for the big occasion. If you wanted your best guy in there, then it was probably Ruby.
Yeah.
So we won't see his like again, And then he was just such a compelling character. Like he's obsessive, driven, no nonsense, doesn't like the bullshit. Touch of Roy Keane off him, that mould. So it's kind of a fitting way for him to go in some ways, without any fanfare, without even Willie Mullins knowing, I'm done. I've just won the Punchestown Gold Cup.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Sayonara. Yeah. So we'll get some more reaction on Ruby as the evening goes on, I'm sure.
Big changes down Leeside today. An interim manager will be placed in charge of Cork City for Friday's SSE Airtricity Premier Division trip to Bohemians. The club today sacked John Caulfield after a run of 7 games without a win in the top flight. Most recently, that 1-1 draw with bottom side Finn Harps on Monday. Caulfield led Cork to a League and Cup double in 2017, but he concedes that now is the time to part ways with the club.
Good news, Kenny. All your questions will be answered. We're going to be joined by Willie Mullins in about 10 minutes' time. Trainer extraordinaire. He will answer any Ruby questions you want answered, and then some. So we'll talk to Willie Mullins in the next 10 minutes or so about the retirement of Ruby Walsh. If you're just tuning in, he announced it with immediate effect this afternoon at Punchestown. Now, Ikar Casillas.
Yeah, plenty of shocking news around today, has to be said. Porto say goalkeeper Ikar Casillas, is well and in a stable condition after suffering a heart attack in training. The Spain World Cup winner was taken to hospital this morning in Porto, but the club insist his heart problem is now solved. They say Casillas only recently signed a new contract with the Portuguese champions and said at the time he hoped to play until he's 40. He last played for Spain Euro 2016, 167 international caps to his name, and hadn't given up hope of rejoining Luis Enrique's international setup there.
Can't be playing again after that, surely. Is that an indication there he's actually rejoining the squad, or will be playing again?
No, that's basically saying what he's done.
Oh, right, I thought, I was going to say, I would have thought.
Too early to say, I'd say, is probably the word there, Kenny. Too early to say.
Yeah, you can't take any chances. You can't take any chances there. Like, from his perspective, I would have thought that's it, done.
Jeez, I forgot about Paul Flynn.
Such has been the day.
This day won't end.
Gavin has led the tributes to Paul Flynn, who this morning announced his retirement from intercounty football. The 32-year-old wing forward won...
Feels like 2 weeks ago since Paul Flynn retired.
He won 6 All-Ireland football titles with Dublin, along with 10 Leinster titles and 5 National League crowns. The Fingalians club man has struggled for fitness since having back surgery last year, conceding that's what marked the end of his intercounty career. But Gavin has hailed Flynn as an outstanding individual who, quote, inspired those around him by his determination, self-sacrifice and commitment to his sport. And Kerry legend Kieran Donaghy on this morning's OTB AM paid tribute to Flynn.
Probably timing of it's a bit strange, that even if a guy like that was struggling with an injury, that there's been cases in Kerry down the years where guys have got injured midway through the league or into the league, maybe a season in an injury, and that they stay in the setup. And like Paul Flynn's his expertise are invaluable. One, he plays one of the hardest positions to play in the game, which is a dynamic half forward, when you're kind of expected to chase back and keep your man honest and get forward, kick scores, tackles. So he'd have a huge amount to give to any team, even from a point of view of just being a leader and a kind of a role model. And he did all that, he did all the unseen work that you have to do as one of these top wing forwards, which is what he is in the modern era. He's up there with the Doohers and the Galvins and these fellas as your half forward that does all the dog work and does all the kind of the hard stuff, but then was able to get forward, kick scores, have great passer, great vision, and he was tough in and around there. So he'll be a big loss in their dressing room. He was still a fella that you were kind of going late on, if Dublin are in an All-Ireland semi-final or an All-Ireland final with history beckoning. In my eyes, he was going to be a key guy for us this year to go, there you go, Paul, there's 15 minutes to go in, set this down, get a score, make a few hard runs, and he'll be a loss on that front.
Yeah, that's OTB AM, our sports breakfast show that's on every weekday morning from 7:45. You'll find it on offtheball.com, YouTube, Twitter and Facebook, so you can start your day with Off The Ball. And you can see our social channels for full broadcast details for more.
I think, and subject to confirmation, Paul Flynn will be on OTB AM tomorrow to talk about his retirement. Absolutely exceptional player. Still only 32. It's a real pity the way his career went on the injury front over the last number of years. But to win what he did win on a personal level and as part of a team is exceptional. He was really brilliant. I do wonder, Donaghy's talking about the timing of it there. if perhaps he was trying to give himself every chance to get the body right and has just reached a point where you have to be in or out, and he said, okay, it's
that's
not
what it is, because we've got
quite
squads
happen.
being finalised in and around now for
Yeah.
championships, etc. So he's probably decided, listen, that's it.
Yeah, still only 32, it's a pity, but wow, he packed a lot in. So Paul Flynn, we'll hear from him certainly over the next 24 hours in the show as well.
One of Kerry's most experienced players will miss this summer's football championship as well. Peter Crowley has been ruled out for the summer after sustaining a cruciate ligament injury while playing for his club Lone Rangers at the weekend. Tottenham insist that they followed all FA protocols regarding Jan Vertonghen's head injury last night. After his clash of heads with Toby Alderweireld, Spurs say their medical team strictly followed the FA's concussion guidelines. They say that the testing was after the testing, he was judged to be alert and answered all questions correctly and lucidly, deeming him fit to return to the field of play. Vertonghen did play on, albeit briefly, before he was substituted and then losing his footing and vomiting pitchside. But Spurs say tests on the Belgian showed up clear today, but testing will continue and he is to see a neurologist tomorrow.
And much talk as well about some kind of HIA coming into football.
Has to be.
Rather than later.
I mentioned this to Kenny off air last night, just after the show ended. The day before, Chris Sutton had been on about the issue of dementia in slightly older footballers and elderly footballers, because this had come up. Obviously Stevie Chalmers, the guy who scored the winning goal for Celtic in the 67 European Cup final, had just passed away. Billy McNeil the week before. Those are two players obviously close to Chris Sutton's heart, him being an ex-Celtic player. Chris Sutton's dad, I know, has suffered from similar issues before as well. And it's something that is going to come into, the news more and more over the coming years as that generation of players from the 60s and beyond starts to pass away, is that ultimately it's going to be dementia that unfortunately is claiming a lot of their lives.
Yeah, because one of the, I'm sort of speaking from memory here, but I'm fairly sure I have it pretty close to correct. Alan Shearer was on with myself and Kev around the time he did that documentary on Jeff Astle and the links between dementia and heading the football. And of course, like, the presumption Kev and I both had was, well, look, the footballs back in the day were just so much heavier. That's got to be a big issue here. And Shearer was saying that when it rains, when it's wet, the modern day footballs are every bit as heavy as the ones that the lads in the 60s were heading, which I couldn't believe. And Shearer himself said he couldn't believe it. But they did it, they did tests, and apparently it is. And it's not so much that, it's the weight of the ball, it's just the repetition. It doesn't need to be a big impact each time.
Over and over again.
It's just the repetition over and over again, yeah. It doesn't need to be a big impact.
Yeah, and people forget it's your training kind of Monday to Saturday, on the training page, the
doing
classic,
drills.
Yeah, classic bag of balls after training, people smashing balls down. Do you remember Millwall in the early days? Tony McCarthy, ex-League of Ireland player, Tony came over and played with Millwall. Tony was a great head of the ball, centre half. So it wouldn't have been uncommon, bag of balls and just absolutely pummeling balls down at each other. And Tony was a great head of the ball, heading the ball 40 yards, back up the pitch, just consistently between us, half an hour, 40 minutes. So that was pretty regular, you know what I mean? All sorts of drills of that type.
That might
for
go.
defenders in particular.
That might be, the way in NFL they limit the amount of contact in training.
Yeah.
That might go. And ultimately, Niall Quinn was even saying last night in Virgin Sport, if we get to a point in 50, 100 years where heading is banned, it would be terrible for the game because it's such a part of the fabric of the game, but it might even get to that point. Who knows?
Well, like I said, it'll be a different game. It won't be football if we can never head again. I think you're right in terms of limiting the amount of touches during the course of your training week. Actually, during the course of the game, the amount of times you actually statistically head the ball, reasonably small in comparison to the amount of touches you get during the week in training. So if you're going to limit it to any extent, it would be, I would imagine, during the course of your training schedule.
Yeah. Where are we going next, Rich?
Next, we will head to the Crucible. Dave Gilbert is through to the semi-finals of the World Snooker Championships after completing a 13 frames to 8 victory over Karen Wilson this afternoon. He'll face the winner of the quarter-final meeting of John Higgins and Neil Robertson. They have resumed, with Higgins leading by 9 frames to 7. He's on course to make that 10-7 in the next few moments. On the other table, Stephen Maguire has begun clawing back his deficit to Judd Trump. They resumed with Trump leading by 11 frames to 5. Maguire has just rattled in a massive break to draw that back to 11-6, and the winner of that one will face Gary Wilson in the last 4. Wilson earlier today, the Tyneside Terror, was a 13-9 victor over Ali Carter.
Joe, I'm loving the Ruby Walsh Roy Keane comparison. They'd be two great lads to sit down and have a pint with, says Dinny in Cork. Yeah, no fools would be suffered. Hi lads, I'm not sure Ruby will answer you tonight. I've just seen him. He's in Krispy Kreme, horsing into a box of donuts, says John in Dublin. Imagine not having to diet anymore. I'm imagining Ruby Walsh in an Alan Partridge-esque chocolate gorge right now in his car listening to us.
With a Toblerone hanging over his mouth.
Keep eating, Ruby. Just
I
eat
wouldn't
it
have
all.
thought
Eat it all.
Would he be physically capable of it? Your body's been so, you know what I mean?
Conditioned.
Yeah. I would have thought almost your body's physically not capable.
You'd have a tiny
Feel
stomach, yeah.
Yeah, do you know, even the taste sensations, even mentally.
Don't get him
from a
started.
mental
Start him
point
on
of view.
food.
Do you think so?
You're actually obsessed with food.
No, I'm talking about Ruby Walsh.
You're not really, though.
No, but I am. But jockeys in particular.
What kind of
I
flavours
know.
are we talking about here,
So
Kenny?
disciplined mentally. I almost had to play mind games with, for
Ruby-
such a long period of time.
Yeah. And some of them, like, I did a kind of sit-down thing with Ruby a couple of years ago now before Cheltenham, big old interview, and he was saying that early on in his career, he went off on a holiday to Australia and let himself go in the off-season. And he said it was such torture losing that weight when he got back that he never let himself go again. So effectively for, 20 years, he's never fallen off the wagon. He's just been keeping the weight off. So to think of him right now in Krispy Kreme, shoving it in.
Good luck to him.
Oh.
It's like, I'm not a big Krispy Kreme fan, you know that.
What are you?
Don't
what are
like
you?
the glaze.
Oh, you're Thunders.
Don't like
You're
the
a Thunders
glaze.
man to the bitter ends.
Traditional sugar-coated raspberry centre.
Indeed. Well, good luck to
Doesn't
Ruby
take
Walsh.
much, does it?
No, like you've got there pretty quickly. We're talking to Willie Mullins very shortly about the retirement of Ruby Walsh this afternoon at Punchestown. Last story or two, Rich?
Yeah, Anthony Joshua finally knows his next opponent. He'll defend his WBA, IBF and WBO World Heavyweight titles against Andy Ruiz Jr. on the 1st of June at Madison Square Garden in New York. Joshua was due to face Jarrell Big Baby Miller, but the American failed multiple drug tests. Katie Taylor's unification bout with Delphine Pursoon still on the undercard of that one. And Cardiff manager Neil Warnock has been fined £20,000 by the Football Association for comments he made about referees recently. He called them, quote, the worst in the world following their controversial Premier League defeat, Cardiff's that is, to Chelsea in March. The FA say various interviews he gave after the match questioned the integrity of match officials or implied bias and constituted improper conduct or brought the game into disrepute. As we might imagine, a battle between Celtic and Rangers for the PFA Scotland Premiership Player of the Year. Ibrox pair Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos have been nominated alongside Celtic duo James Forrest and Callum McGregor. And finally, Longford looks set to be without Donald McGilligan for their Leinster Championship quarter-final. The GAA's Central Hearings Committee have handed the halfback a one-match suspension following his red card in Longford's Allianz Football League Division 3 defeat to Westmeath recently. McGilligan will miss Longford's Championship opener with either Kildare or Wicklow on May the 16th as a result. But the Mullen and Loughlin man can still, of course, take his case to the Central Appeals Committee.
Richie, thanks very much. So a short break and then we are building up to Barcelona against Liverpool. It kicks off at the new camp at 8 o'clock. We'll get all Kenny's thoughts and in a moment we'll talk to Willie Mullins, who it seems was as surprised as the rest of us when Ruby Walsh turned around to him this afternoon at Punchestown and said, I'm done.
Off the ball on News Talk. News Talk Breakfast.
Our Friday phone-in is back on News.